since we're on the topic of mental health, is what 2020 did for most artists and people, for that matter, in the realm of mental health, because there was an exceptional amount of pressure being put on independents, especially, to do so many different things all at the same time.
Got me feeling like this.
I know. Man, y'all got Matt Beek sliding in the chair with his crunchy suit on.
Now this suit is crunchy, but I'm fly. Shout out to Iridium Life. You feel me?
Oh yeah, not what you need, and that is all. Nothing to say. Try to take my spot, yeah. You better breathe. Don't run, cause I will spray.
What is going on, everybody? It's your girl Angela,
and this is your boy Matt B.
And welcome to Beyond the Music. Today we are going to be getting into mental health and the music industry. So let's dive right in.
Well, we always know what bad mental health looks like. Mm-hmm. And we have a false perception of what good mental health looks like. And the reason why I say false perception is because we'll look at someone and we'll say, man, look at them. They just look so good. They just look like they just got it all together. They look like their life is just going perfectly. How could they not be in a good mental state? How could they not be happy? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, the people who wear the biggest smiles on their faces are the people who are going through the most.
I agree. I think that smiles and happiness can definitely be deceptive in the industry, especially with entertainment. Everyone wears almost like a mask, and they take that mask in their day-to-day work as an artist or as a manager, and they try their best not to show their inner emotions, and that eventually wears on you. And that, along with the weight of the industry and the struggle for an artist to attain a certain level of perfection and trying to reach all of their goals, and there's a lot of pressure. And I think that it manifests itself in different forms for different people. Some people are able to work through it, and other people internalize it, and that internalization can turn into anxiety or depression and stress and lots of different things for different people in the industry. So I think it can definitely be a struggle.
So then let's double back then. Let's define mental health then. Like, what does good mental health look like? If we could say three things that would look like good mental health, and what are three things that would look like deteriorating or not so good or bad mental health?
I think the first thought that comes to mind when I think of good mental health would be inner peace.
Yeah. And
I think that inner peace is the thing that most people strive for, but they think that is striving for happiness. I think a lot of people think that in striving for happiness, that's them striving for success or striving for the best possible outcome in life. But really, I think you mentioned this before, you're really in pursuit of that happiness. And in pursuing that happiness, you're really pursuing peace. So inner peace is probably my first big one that I would say. What about you?
In order for me to truly define this, I just have to really just take a step back and just really, like, I want to think outside of the box. For me, good mental health looks like being able to express oneself freely. So not to feel guarded, to be able to express sadness, happiness, or any range of emotion without fear of judgment. Good mental health also looks like having a good family unit or just anyone around you that you can lean on emotionally when times get rough, or when times are good, because you don't always want to share the bad with people. You want to share the good with people too. Good mental health looks like stability. Looks like someone who isn't all over the place, bouncing around here and there, having super highs and super lows, but just more so being stable, as opposed to bad mental health. Bad mental health to me looks like someone who is happy all the time, because that isn't realistic. That is a facade, a mask that someone is wearing because they're hiding something deeper. Bad mental health to me looks like someone who appears to have it all put together no matter what happens. They're just stoic. They never seem to stumble. They always just seem to always have the answer. And bad mental health would also look like someone who doesn't like to share how they feel, what they're going through, or somewhere in that nature, where it's just like no matter what happens, you just really can't get through to them. It's almost like they're cut off mentally from the world. So from the outside looking in, before you know the person, it's like, oh, this person always has it together. This person just must be great. But deep down inside, they're dying, and that's something that they don't fully show unless either you get to know them, or they might not show it at all until something tragic happens. Checking in on people, seeing how they're doing, watching not what they say, but what they do, I think really helps to diagnose, especially if you know that person really well, to diagnose, like, does this person need something more? Should I recommend a counselor? Should I recommend something along those lines to help them get through whatever it is that they're getting through? Because you can feel it a lot of the times.
I want to go back to what you said a minute ago, that people who are happy all the time are typically the people who struggle the most with mental health. And I want to clarify that statement. You are essentially saying that happiness is forced, and that person is forcing themselves to feel happy all the time, and that's suppressing their other emotions. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that people who seem happy all the time are really struggling with other things? Because I want to make sure I'm understanding.
In some instances, I feel like it is forced. In other instances, I feel like it's a coping mechanism. Almost like people who laugh, or just you think of society in general, we laugh at things that feel awkward because that's our safety mechanism,
Right.
to prevent us from feeling what it is that's really going on.
Right.
And I feel like, in a sense, a lot of people will portray happiness in hopes that one day they will feel that way. So I think it's almost like they're deceiving themselves. And they're probably not even cognizant of what they're doing. But it's like anything. I mean, we all wear masks. Some of our masks are a little bit more elaborate than others.
Right.
So I mean, like, some people will, if you start your day off where you're feeling down, you're feeling upset and things like that, and you find ways to pull yourself out of it, I think that's healthy. However, if you have some really deep-seated stuff that you just really can't get out, and you feel like there's no one around you and no one cares, yet you just continue to pretend and continue to smile regardless, that to me, that's not healthy. And that is a good indication that things are going sour. And when you have friends and things like that, and people that you're close to, you can see it, because maybe you might have a coworker, or you might have somebody like that, and then one day you go over to their house, and it's like, bro, this looks like you should be on what's that TV show?
Which one?
The one where the house is a wreck. And
Hoarders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like people who suppress their emotions are hoarders mentally. And what I mean by that is you experience we're all human, so many different emotions constantly are running through our minds and our mental and our hearts on a daily basis, especially in the music industry with the ups and downs of first you're happy and then you're sad and then you're struggling and then you're not, and then it's all good and then it's not so good, and then one day you feel on top of the world, nobody can stop me, and then the next you're like, why is this my life?
Right.
So in the industry, we're almost conditioned to take all of those emotions and bottle them up like it doesn't bother you.
Right.
And I think it puts you in a space where you almost are hoarding those emotions within your heart and in your mind. And just like hoarding items in real life in your house or in your mom's basement or whatever, just like that is unhealthy for various reasons, it's the same with your mind. And operating with a clear mind and with a clear headspace and being able to emit those emotions when they come is so important and so key to keeping your mental health healthy. And I think that a lot of artists struggle with that because the music is their outlet, and that's how they express how they feel to the world, to their peers, to anybody. It's almost like their baby. Right. But when you take that baby and show it to the world and you're like, look at this beautiful baby, I love it so much. And some jerk starts beating your baby up, you gonna feel some type of way.
Right.
So I think with music, it's the same way with your mental health, because artists are literally giving their music, i.e. their children, to the world. And especially in the world of the internet is not always very forgiving.
Right.
And something that you think is so beautiful and so creative and the best thing since sliced bread may not be the case to the rest of the world. And no one is going to treat your art the way that you treat your art. You're going to value your stuff way more than anyone else does. And sometimes it's hard for an artist to take the emotion out of the music and allow it to be the music business. And that separation between the personal attachment to their music and the business aspect of what it is that they're doing, which is providing a product to the world, which is their song or their EP, whatever, that can be difficult. And then when they receive that critical feedback, it can be devastating for a certain artist, depending on what that feedback is, especially if it's negative. And then to turn around and tell the artist, by the way, you can't be mad, because if you're mad, then you're not cut out for this business. And you also can't sit and sulk, because if you sit and sulk and take time away, you're falling behind, because the industry is so fast paced. So there's so much pressure on an artist to like churn and burn, but you also have to love what you do and put your heart and soul into it. But then you have to separate your heart and soul from it once you put it out into the world and accept all of the critical feedback. And I think for a lot of young artists coming into the industry today, that is very difficult, which is why we see a lot of new artists that are breaking and having these meltdowns on social media. And when I say meltdowns, them dissecting every single bad thing that the media says, or them saying that everybody's a hater, everybody hates me, and F this and F y'all and this is that. And like, to me, to people, that's probably going to sound like an artist that's just all over the place, out there, whatever, artist being artist. But to me, that sounds like an internal cry for help, and also someone who doesn't know how to handle the pressure being put on them as an artist in today's society, because social media puts everything under a microscope, and we as human beings are not designed to handle emotions that way. we're not supposed to literally overanalyze every single aspect of someone. We have to be forgiving of everyone's mistakes. And I don't think social media allows for that.
Yeah, social media definitely doesn't allow for that. And even in the realm of hoarding and other excessive, compulsive behaviors, it's like, you know, when you see someone hoarding, I mean, instantaneously you're like, yeah, there's something wrong. There are other excessive, compulsive behaviors that aren't so much red flags, and our society paints it as badges of honor and
Right.
just
That's true.
oh, look how hard he's working. He never stops. The grind never stops with him. And in reality, like, they dying on the inside, like they mentally melting on the inside, and they're struggling, and they don't know how to make sense of it all. And I would just say, just as a disclaimer, we are not healthcare professionals. If you do not use this content as a way of diagnosing yourself with anything,
Man.
if you feel as though
Facts.
you are struggling with mental health, then you need to go and seek out a professional in order to get that taken care of. And I wish anybody who is struggling with that nothing but the best, because I know that I've struggled with that in the past. So I just want to put that out in the air just for anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening right now.
And I 100% agree. I've had my own struggles with mental health and depression throughout my life, and it is a bear. It is not fun, and it's something that everyone should really take seriously, and something that's helped for the both of us has been therapy. And I think that society makes therapy taboo, like especially our community, you know, and we almost make it seem like if you go to therapy, there's something wrong with you. But it's normal to have problems, and it's normal to want to talk about those problems with a neutral party who will hear you out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone who's having issues with depression, suicidal thoughts, or anything else mental health wise that is seeking help. There's nothing wrong with that. And another thing that I wanted to touch on, since we're on the topic of mental health, is what 2020 did for most artists and people, for that matter, in the realm of mental health, because there was an exceptional amount of pressure being put on independents, especially, to do so many different things all at the same time.
Got me feeling like this.
I know. Man, y'all got Matt Beek sliding in the chair with his crunchy suit on.
Now this suit is crunchy, but I'm fly. Shout out to Iridium Life. You feel me?
So in 2020, there was an exceptional amount of pressure being put on artists to essentially be a machine.
Yeah.
I personally saw 2020 as an opportunity for artists to reboot, to reset, regroup, and really think about what is going on in 2020, for one, and for two, how this new normal is going to affect them in other aspects of life. But instead, what was being stated on social media was, if you ain't grinding during this time, you ain't about the grind. Oh, if you not putting out a song a week, you ain't doing blah, blah, blah with the music, and you not serious. And it was way...
Meanwhile, bro is a keyboard warrior, and he's actually not doing shit with the music either. So
Period.
Let that sink in.
Let's talk about it. And I was, instead of seeing people uplifting each other and saying it's okay to go to sleep, it's okay to take a break, it's okay to be overwhelmed and feel hopeless in the midst of a pandemic. Instead, everyone was trying to literally, even people who have never done this before, juggle a million things at one time. We were expected to be entrepreneurs. We were expected to start our own businesses. Even if we already had one, artists were expected to put out tons of music. Let's also keep in mind that now everyone wanted to be live all at the same time. I'm sure y'all remember when everybody was going live and you pop on Instagram and there'd be like 87 lives happening all at the same time.
Now nobody goes live no more.
Now nobody goes live anymore. And the pandemic is still here. Yeah. But there was so much pressure on the artists to go live, figure out how to do live performances. You got to hit up Twitch. You got to hit up Stage It. You got to hit up all of these different platforms. And now everything is oversaturated because everyone's trying to do all the same things at the same time. And it was way too much pressure, and people were literally killing themselves to create content. And I found it to be very, very overwhelming, unnecessary, and unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it almost seemed like everyone was trying to rush to be ahead of the next person, because when 2021 hit, which is now, I'm ahead of the game. I already built my business.
Right.
I already released 10 projects. I already did whatever. And when the world opens back up in 2021, I'm going to be ready. Meanwhile, the world is not open back up. We are still in quarantine. And now what? Now you just burned yourself out working your ass off all 2020. And now are we supposed to do that again? Mentally, I don't know about y'all, but I can't do it. I can't do another 2020. I'm not about to do it in 2021.
These hard-headed, stiff-necked ass niggas don't even have the strength to do that again.
Man.
I would say put that out there right now.
It is too much. Being an artist, being a manager, being anyone in this industry, the music business is hard enough. The last thing that we need is internet keyboard warriors telling us how to structure our time and what to do. It's too much, and I can't do that in 2021. I'm taking things at my own pace and doing it my way.
People are setting a pace for other people that they themselves can't keep up with.
Yes.
And it reminds me of a child's story of the tortoise and the hare. And it's like slow and steady wins the race. People thought that they were going to be the hare and that they were going to sprint as fast as they can and try and get in front of everybody and
man, killing themselves.
And it didn't work, because at the end of the day, they thought that they were running a 40-yard dash, and in reality, they were running a 4K.
Man,
so it didn't add up. The hill was too high. They couldn't see across the horizon, and by the time they made it up to the top of the hill, they realized they had so much more left to run, and it just became unrealistic.
Yeah.
Quarantine in and of itself, I think a lot of artists, it was a hard time for everyone to adjust to. Me, myself, like, it was a hard time for me to adjust to, too. And I found myself going through depression and anxiety and all of the above. And for me, like, especially like in my teenage years and all the rest of that stuff, that wasn't even on my radar. Like, I was in the ghetto. And when I tell you the toe, you haven't seen the ghetto unless you come to the south side of Chicago. And for everybody that lives on the south side of Chicago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was in the toe. So it's like that wasn't really on my mind. I was just trying to survive. And honestly, it wasn't until like college and things getting a little better for me that I really started struggling with that more, or struggling with that at all, I should say. And now as time has progressed, like, I struggle with it, unfortunately, more. And, you know, I've had my ups and downs and suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety and things like that. And it's like, you know, you try and work your way through it. And thank God I've been able to, with family and friends and yourself and just the support of just everyone around me, but there are so many people that don't have that, and because they don't have that, they just feel trapped. And quarantine revealed that. It revealed just how fragile people's mental states are, and they didn't even know how fragile their mental states were until quarantine hit. Because if you're on the go, like, you don't even have the time to even think about all that. But when you're sitting there by yourself, when you're sitting in the crib, and you don't have nothing else to do, initially it's cool because you're like, oh man, I'm finally getting some rest. Yeah. And then by about week 2 or 3, not even a month, week 2 or 3, you got people in here like, oh man, and then like marriages deteriorate, relationships deteriorate. You realize you don't know your kids. And your badass kids that was messing with the teacher, and you were like, oh, he a good kid. He don't hurt nobody. You finally realize that stiff-necked, hard-headed.
Stop talking about people's kids.
Hard-headed baby kid you didn't even want to deal with. So let that sink in.
Thank you, Matt B.
I had to put that out there, though. I had to put that out there because people be doing some crazy stuff to me. Anyway.
Facts.
That was a whole little side tangent, though.
There was a lot of uncertainty with quarantine, and that disrupted a lot of people's mental as well as their households. And I think that people didn't really know how to handle when one of the backbones of the industry being live music dissipated. And when live music went bye-bye, a lot of artists completely fell flat because there were a lot of independent artists who relied on touring and being able to do their weekly shows, their monthly shows. They relied on those tour dates and those schedules to pay their rent and pay their bills. And if you're telling an artist who literally is full-time artist, hey, you can't do your shows anymore. And that was your only way of making money fast, because we all know, I know everybody out there who's watching this and is an independent artist knows that streaming money is not coming in quick.
Streaming money? I'm not even going to get on that topic. That's a topic for another day.
That money it's not quick cash. That money trickles in over time. So if you're telling an artist that their only way to, one of their predominant ways of making money is cut, that's going to devastate anybody. And I think all of that uncertainty is what caused people's mentals to start deteriorating, because like you said, initially people were under the guise of, oh, okay, well, I get a break. Cool. I just got off tour, feeling good, get some naps in, watch some Netflix, catch up on my shows. But then after a while, and your landlord is knocking on your door, and your gas bill is late, and your electric is late.
Right.
And your kids are screaming in the other side of the room because they are not in daycare or school.
Right.
And you've never dealt with this before.
Right.
Now everybody's like, when does live show come back? When is the world going to open back up? And it was difficult for artists, managers, label execs. Everyone's world turned upside down, especially people who worked in the live entertainment industry, people who worked at venues, for ticketing companies. It all kind of fell apart, and that caused other areas of people's lives to fall apart too. Their marriages, as you said, friendships were tested, because we weren't just going through a pandemic, we were also going through a very crazy, very heavily opinionated election.
Yeah.
So everyone, everywhere, was already divided.
Yeah.
And the pandemic was the cute little cherry on top that made everybody just smile and be like, this is wonderful.
It was a boiling point. Tensions were high.
Mm-hmm.
No one had anything to do. Everyone was trapped in the house, and all people could do is watch the TV and just see how everything was unfolding
Watch
around
the
them,
world
and it was
burn.
just pissing them off. And it just the anger and the frustration of dealing with their kids and dealing with little money and all the rest of that stuff came to a boiling point where now things that would have brushed off of people's shoulders really was rubbing people the wrong way, and people took it to the streets, whether it be for better or for worse. And with that being said, what are some of the solutions that people can do to maintain their mental health? Because I know for me, like, I learned a lot about myself in quarantine, and I got deeper into the Word of God. I was on a mission just to strengthen my mind, my body, and my soul. And so deeper in the Word of God, working out 3 to 4 days out of the week, stretching, meditating, doing yoga, eating healthy, drinking a lot of water, things like that, and really just stepping back from the creative space for a little while. And luckily I had some records that were stacked up, so I still was dropping music, but I was stepping away from just like so much of the writing and the recording and things like that because I wanted to be more stable. So that really was my really, like, I guess you could say Matt B 101 or 101 to stay mentally grounded. But what does that look like for you, and what do you think that looks like for other people? How can they kind of navigate that?
For me, it's a lot of similar things. Honestly, working out, stretching, yoga, meditating, but further, a thing that really helped me was taking breaks from social media and taking breaks from the news and the media in general, because with how crazy COVID was and continues to be, and will likely continue in the future, there was so much information being thrown at me on a daily basis, from news outlets to people sending updates on Twitter and Instagram, and then coupling that with the music side of things, with new challenges starting and everyone live at the same time, and everyone seeming to release things constantly, all behind one another, drop after drop after drop, everyone competing for the attention.
It's discouraging.
Yes, competing for eyeballs, essentially, and eyeballs from people who literally are already tired, already stressed, already worn out mentally, physically, emotionally, and I could not take the rat race. I'm not gonna sit here and cap. It was too much for me after a certain point. And being able to know in your mind and listen to that voice because your body's gonna tell you when enough is enough.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everyone can relate to that. You're gonna know when enough is enough, and you have to listen to that voice and take a step back from work, social media, like turn off everything. And for me, being able to turn things off, even for an hour, was helpful. I was doing social media purges where I wasn't on social media for a couple of days at a time. And unfortunately, due to the line of work that I do as a manager, I always kind of have to stay in tune with what's going on, and I have to stay up to date. But taking those mental breaks from the internet and social media really is helpful. And especially in the midst of the pandemic, taking breaks from the news and the seeming impending doom that our country seems to be in right now. There's a lot happening, and there's a lot going on, especially with the change of administration that we're having right now. And for some people who are already dealing with a lot and in a fragile mental state, it could be overwhelming. So it's okay to take those breaks and find outlets. Another outlet for myself is journaling. I'm a big person who likes to write things down, and I always have been. So writing out how I feel in its rawest form in that moment helps me. Whether it's venting frustration, venting my anger, venting my sadness, venting whatever is on my mind, being able to put that pen to paper and say exactly how I feel really helps me. And I think that people underestimate the power of being able to talk essentially to yourself and format it in a way where as you're writing, the words are flowing, but then you can read it and look back and understand and dissect a bit more where you were at the time, why you felt that way, and how to help yourself figure it out. And when you cannot help yourself, the third thing that I do is therapy and talking to a neutral party, talking to someone else who can help me work through those emotions helps a lot. And of course, if you're not in therapy or don't have anyone to speak to, talking to family, talking to friends, being open and honest with yourself and with other people, being able to vent and get things off of your chest really helps a lot. So those would be the things that I practiced a lot in quarantine and will likely continue to practice as we journey through 2021 and beyond.
So if you were to summarize all of that into just 3 things that the average person could do in order to help to strengthen or better their mental health, what would that look like to you?
As I said, taking breaks from social media, doing a social media purge, whatever it is you need to do, journaling, and therapy. Those are the things that have been the most helpful.
For sure. For me, I think it would be definitely something similar to that. Therapy for sure. Leaning more on God for me. If it's just for the average person and if that's not really their cup of tea, then I would say then just finding someone who you trust, someone who you can talk to, someone who you know is going to keep what you're saying to themselves, because y'all have a lot of family members out here who are like no other, who will put your shit out in the street. So I feel you on that. Put all your business out there for everybody else to hear, and I'll feel you as to why you don't want to talk to them. Or the other option for me could be finding an outlet, a physical outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Sports.
Very helpful.
Boxing, anything
Running.
like that. Swimming, finding that physical outlet. You'd be surprised, to get out some of that frustration physically really goes a long way.
Agreed. So that about does it for us today on Beyond the Music, and we want to know, what does mental health mean to you? How do you cope with your problems in the industry and in your own personal life? And if you are struggling with mental health or suicidal thoughts, we're going to leave some resources for you in the description box on YouTube. But until then, make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram. I'm Angela V. Benson.
And I'm Matt B. World. That's MATT B. World.
And that does it for us today on Beyond the Music, and we'll see you next time.
The conversation continues.